Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. 1, 2, 3. I do that, you guys, so I can see the if the mic is on. So I do apologize if I open it up like that, but this is live. So let me move because y'all see my little paving projects. You all don't need to see that. You don't need to see that part of the house. I'll show you the pseudo generic, somewhat put together part of the house. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. So today we are going to talk about spooky season, autumnal reads. Listen, I tried to record this video before, and let's just say I did all of that talking for nothing because there was no volume. There was no volume to begin with. So I don't know what happened, but I had to go back and like reset my computer. So yeah, so that night, I think I recorded 2 videos. Yeah, and it took all of me to just sit down and just do these recs again. So I want to try to make this worth your time. I'm not going to say it's going to be quick because every time I say that I'm going to do something quickly, I end up not, going through all the protocols I need to go to give you all the content that I want to share with you. So let's get ready. I was going to do a whole entire spooky background. Like I was for it. So, but it didn't happen. So yeah, maybe next year, but I do have this. I love my spooky cup. That's good. So let's get into some of these spooky reads, spooky recs. So here's the thing. I'm going to do a mixture of spooky and horror. Yeah, I'm going to do it like that because, something can be scary, but then it could be also horrible. And a lot of that horror is going to be real life stories. And yeah, the horror behind it. Storytelling is a powerful thing. And I don't look at, let's say, for instance, spooky season, right? And this is a season that was generated to create a celebration for or generate, more, I guess, how can I say, more money for business celebrating this holiday. But we have the hoodoo holiday, which is an African holiday. We have Day of the Dead, which is a Spanish holiday. And so these are the days. I don't know if it's Spanish or Hispanic holiday. I don't know. I can't differentiate the two. I didn't study on it, but you know, these are days. Those holidays are specific to celebrate our ancestors. And so we shouldn't look at it as a holiday. Well, we can. Like that's the one day a year everybody can be an imposter, right? Because some of us are imposters 365, you know, um, from sun up to sundown. But some of us, we have that holiday, you know, where you just want to put on a fun costume, you know, play the games, have the talk, and enjoy yourself. Hmm. So however you celebrate, be safe out there. Some of us don't celebrate it at all, but for those who do, I love, you know, looking at costumes. I love the idea of, people just getting together and enjoying themselves. So just be safe. But I'm getting off while I'm here. So let's go into these books. I had a couple of books for children, and I can only find one. Like I said, I posted. I had did a video already, and I did not. I started putting books back. You guys, when you are doing like book recs and booktubers, they know what I'm talking about. It can be so cumbersome to haul books around the house to different locations to do book recs. And so a lot of times when I do a book rec or a video and I have the books out, um, Once I'm done recording, I feel like I'm done with the books, I immediately put them back, where they need to go. And in essence, sometimes I do not, I say for instance now, where I am missing a couple of my children's books I can't find. Um, it makes it hard for me to go back and try to find it. And I can't pause this because it's live. So, ooh, excuse me. So I'm going to do the one children's book I have. Like I said, I had to. I don't know where it's at, but oh well. This is really for an adults anyway. But since they were like a fun read, I just thought I would share. But let me share the one children's book I do have. I would say this is for not even middle school. This is probably like grade school, anywhere between second to fifth grade. And I got this book a long, long time ago. Um, just to read with my son. And I like it. I got this from like a thrift sale. So you guys, it's Halloween. I'm turning green. Um, and I forget how old my son was when I got this book. But yeah, I mean, just a really good, quick read about the character. Oh, I haven't read this in so long, but let me see if I can go. I can just read some of it, you guys. That's another thing about these paperbacks. A lot of times they don't give you a summary of what's in there, but it's basically about a young boy who he does like detective work on Halloween, and he's trying to figure out, like understand the meaning of Halloween, like sharing it with his friends. And then he starts to turn green because of all the candy and the junk food he ate. Basically, that's what it was. So this was a really good, cute book, and I think I will be giving this away. So this will be my first and last time sharing this on this channel. But I just thought I would, share something. So I have books here that I have read. I have books here that I would like to read in the near future. I have books that, are just solid, good recommendations, whether it's considered spooky or cozy or autumnal reads, regardless. You should read whatever you want in any time of the year. Remember that. But I do have this one. This is probably one of my favorites of the spooky reads, and it is Misery by Stephen King. I love the book. I love the movie. The movie is freaking hilarious. I think it was Kathy Bates. I forgot the guy name, but it was definitely Kathy Bates' role. Like, um, Nurse Annie. But the book goes into so much more. If the books goes into her marriage and how this was not her first time, doing horrible acts to people she has taken care of. Like, this is the woman who they call her Killer Nurse Annie because she was allude to really disappearing her husband. Also, killing other people besides her husband and other people, like children and the nurses that she worked with. So she was ostracized and living outside on the skirts of town. And so they just call her Crazy Annie. And that was why. But the book tells so much detail about her childhood, her family, and what happened to them. And Stephen King, he did it on this. Now, I have this edition right here. I think I got it for like $1, but I am definitely open to getting this in a second edition or like a special edition or something like, not the second edition, but a special edition, because this is one of those stories that I can see myself reading this again sometime in the future. But yeah, this one was a good one, so I like that one. Oh yes, Stephen King Misery. If I didn't say it. I need to get to. I should probably do all the Stephen King books. No, let me go straight into it. So a lot of my books, I want to go between nonfiction and fiction. kind of balance it out. So let me start with my first nonfiction read. I have a couple right here. This is called The Barn: The Secret History of a Murder in Mississippi. Wright Thompson. Now, this is the story of Emmett Till. Emmett Till, he was an African American teenager who went to Money, Mississippi, and he was basically killed. Um, he was murdered by a group of white men who allegedly who accused him of being I guess he disrespectful to one of the man's wife. So this is what I mean by I want to take my time and make sure I give you all the information. Wright Thompson's family farm in Mississippi is 23 miles from the site of the one of the most notorious consequential killings in America. Yet he learned of it only when he left the state for college. Wow. To this day, fundamental truths about the crime are hidden and unknown, including where it took place and how people were involved. There is no incident. The cover up began once and it is going on. They're still covering it up. So it gets into talking about the four men, and I don't want to read all of this, but it gets into talking about the four men, the two men, Roy and J.W., who actually tortured and murdered 14-year-old Emmett Till in Money, Mississippi. After their acquittal, in a mockery of justice, basically it was a mockery of justice. Um, they gave a false confession to a journalist lying about where the long night of hell took place and who was involved. In fact, Wright Thompson reveals at least 8 people were placed at the scene, which was inside the barn of one of the killers on a plot of land within 36 square miles grid, whose official name was Township 22 North. Mm-mm-mm. I know this. I've actually read a couple of books about Emmett Till, and I may go get another one to share with you all, where the author really gets into depths about not that part, but like the racist aspects of it, of this young boy's murder, and how justice did not prevail, and his mother had to take justice in her own hands and just showed America like this is what's going on a almost regular basis with Black bodies. And it still goes on today, you guys. Currently, we had an ongoing of Black men being hung from trees. And these people are not just committing suicide. Like, these are not just random acts. These acts are intentional terror, to the Black body. And there also was a Caucasian man also who they found hung on a tree. He was a homeless man, and I don't even know if his family know about his whereabouts, if he had family. But these are the acts of terror that Black and African American people deal with on a regular basis. If it's not microaggressive, it's macroaggressive, intention. So this is a good book. I don't want to get into that part of it, but because I want to keep this light and fluffy. But sometimes I have to give a side rant. So yes, I recommend The Barn. I do want to go get the other book, but I have no way of pausing it, so I may just get up and get it. And then yeah, you know what? I'm going to do that for you guys. I'm going to get up and get it, and I'm going to share this book with you guys. I have like 4 books on Emmett Till because one of his family members wrote one, his mom wrote one, and someone else wrote one. But let me get to the one that I was talking about. All right, you guys. I cannot find a book. I thought it was where I thought I had it. Let me see. Check one more place. One more place. If not, I would just put it on another book haul. Hmm. All right, you guys. I'm sorry. I cannot find a book. I do plan on doing a book, especially book haul, not book haul, but like book recs on M and Till soon. So that was in my lineup. So I'll share it then. I literally just had the book in my hand a few days ago. But anyway, let's get back to this. I do apologize. Real life story, Helter Skelter, the true story of the mass murder. Vincent Blogassi and with Kurt Gentry. Now, Vin Blogassi, he also wrote books on JFK and his assassination. This right here is the 25th anniversary. I've had it for a while, but needing to crack it open again. Um, this is a good book. I do recommend this one. This talks about the cult leader, Charles Manson, and the murderous rampage that he went on. And yes, this is horror, you guys. Helter Skelter, one of the most baffling murder cases in this century began on the night of August 9th, 1969, with the brutal killings of actress Sharon Tate and four others at her home in the hills of Hollywood. It continued with the next night with the equally cold-blooded murder of Los Angeles supermarket owner and his wife. I'm not going to say the names. I want you guys to get the book. It ended, so it seemed, with the conviction of Charles Manson. So they thought it ended there, but if you guys never heard of Charles Manson, I would encourage you to go to just if you're on YouTube and you're probably watching YouTube right now. If you see this, go to on a YouTube channel and put in Charles Manson documentary, and there are so many documentaries. There are so many investigative stories about him. Um, and there's also a biopic story. I don't know which. I don't know, but you can probably find it on YouTube now because it's kind of old. But um, they thought his guilty conviction would stop the murders, but when you're in a cult people, they follow their leader. So that wasn't the end of the murders, but this is just such an interesting read right here. Part of history, you guys. Part of history. Helter Skelter. Yes, this is horror, you guys. Real horror. So if I'm scaring some of you guys, I'm sorry, but these are the books that I probably never get an opportunity to really talk about, because I do talk about a lot of nonfiction, but I just want to pull in the contrast and understanding that, horror is not just, reading a non-fiction, like a fictitious book. We have horrors going on right now in this country as we speak. So let's get to the other one. Tony K. Bambera, Those Bones Are Not My Child. This was published, I think, posthumously after the author had passed away. Prolific writer. She don't have many books. I have The Salt Eaters by her, but this one right here is finally getting the attention it deserves, because this is a real life story of the Atlanta child murders, which I think happened in the 1970s. And so it's not talked about a lot, like a lot of history is not talked about, but it's kind of like these are some of the little nuggets of history that a lot of people are probably not aware of. So let me give you like a brief summary of this. These bones are not my child is a staggering achievement in the novel, blah, 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 blah. Okay. It is called it was called The City Too Busy to Hate. And I think I'm gonna have to Google that and see if there's a movie because I think I'm almost sure that I saw something about a movie, an adaptation of this book. But 2 decades later, more than 40 Black children were murdered there with grim determination, their bodies found in ditches, on riverbanks, strangled, beaten, and sexually assaulted. Bambara was living in Atlanta at the time. Those bones are not my child's a result of her painstaking firsthand research as she delved into the murders of the world in which they occurred. And then it goes on from there. It gives a little bit more details about that, but highly a recommended read. Now, you don't want too much spooky, like real life spooky, but I want to mention this author right here because I did not know she existed until like maybe a few years ago. And then she came out recently with a book that is popular, and I listened to it on audiobook, but I need to get a physical copy. But until then, let me give you this book of hers. The Living Blood, Tanana Reeve Dew. I have not read this one yet. This book I found in a thrift store. I love thrifting, you guys. I love thrifting for books. Like it's a little treasure, but it's like a treasure hunt. But I have not read this book. Don't know what the book about. I was actually in there. I always, I just like to frequent go in and go straight to the book section. And I saw the name. That's all I needed was the name. But so let me give you a little hiccup of what it's about. So The Living Blood, Jessica Jacob Wold worked hard to rebuild her life in Miami after the disappearance of her husband, David, and the death of her daughter, Kira, at his hands. 4 years later, she is still coming to terms with the shocking truth. David is part of an ancient group of immortals, a hidden African clan that has survived more than 1,000 years. Gave Jessica 1,000 years. Jessica and their second daughter, Fauna, the gift of the healing blood. So is the daughter dead? Huh. This is interesting. So this is about supernatural powers, immortal, being, creating immortal beings. So I think this is going to be interesting. And look at this, you guys. Well, you can't see it, but it's like either worms or blood things going through this, the face. Interesting art. Huh. Yeah, I can't wait to get into this. Oh my goodness. These are bumblebees. See, I never looked at the book. Yeah, so I might have to put this on my active TBR. I don't know how soon, but yeah, this is definitely in the running. I did commit to read one spooky read. I don't have the luxury of reading books all day, every day. But when I do have, time to, get into what I want to read, I do like a good book. So that will be coming up. I read this one a long time ago. And is it due for a reread? I don't know quite yet, but let me share with you guys. His son has a book coming out soon, which I would like to possibly look into checking it out and reading it at the library first, and then before I purchase it. We'll see. Small Problems that don't have anything to do with now. Stephen King, the book It. Now, everybody across the world should know about Stephen King. and his movie It. The movie is told in so many different languages, along with all of his books, you guys. So he is not short of his 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 real life stories from Derry, Maine, right? Or Drury Lane. Um, so yes, it is about four friends who go back and relive the trauma of their childhood, and that's the clown is the symbolism of the fear that they have to conquer. And so Stephen King, you guys, he's deep. Like I just be thinking, like, when does he have the time to come up with all this stuff? Okay, it began for the losers of a day in June 1958, the day school let out for the summer. That was the day Henry Bowers carved in the tree letter of his name on Ben Hans's belly and chased him to the barrens. The day Henry and the Neanderthal friends beat up the shutter the shuddering Bill and Hindenburg. Eddie Kasprick, the day shuddering. Oh, am I looking at this right? Eddie from his worst asthma attack. Wait. The day shuddering Bill had to save Eddie from his worst asthma attack ever by riding his bike to the to beat the devil at the end of August with seven desperate children in search of a creature unspeakable evil in the drains beneath Derry, in search of it, and somehow ended. I'm looking at this for a second time in years, and I'm reading this like I'm shocked. But yes, so it's about these four characters who, like I said, they are not in a clock against time, but a clock against themselves to address the trauma of their childhood. And that's the gist of, the whole story of it. Like these like traumatized souls came together. And sometimes this reminds me, like, when we meet people, we don't know, like, we're kindred spirits in the sense that, when something happens to us and we meet that person, they can relate to us on certain different levels because of similar experiences or new experiences, that we want to adapt. So in that sense, that was the nutshell of it. If you've never read it, I do encourage you. This is a good read right here. With Stephen King, you need a bit of patience and psychology. Stephen King, he had deeper messages. And sometimes, we'll look at the book and be like, okay, he didn't have to do all of that to just say that. I would say one book of his that I did not care for was Fairy Tales. And it got such high reviews. It did nothing for me. I don't know. Anyway, the next book is Lauren Belfer. It's called Ashton Hall. This is actually on my quarter four reading list. This book is about a mother and her son going. She's basically a writer, and she has a book that is due for publishing, or I think due with her agent or something like that. And she goes to this house to get away, to get some inspiration to finish the book. So she basically rents out this house in hoping, to finish her book. And at the same time, it's summer. So yeah, bring the kid with you, so he can enjoy himself. And then they stumble across a dead body. And so from there, the story moves on. And so I don't know the end or the middle or the beginning of it, but it seems like it's a good book. So I'm excited to read it. This is on my quarter four reads. So hopefully I get to it with all of my other 2025 challenges that I'm trying to achieve. So we'll see. The next one is another Steve King magic Magical experience, you guys. And I actually really like this book right here. If you anytime I have a book, and if there's like a series or like a movie, I try to, just give you guys an idea of if you're not interested in reading the book, check out the movie. But I always encourage the book. And even sometimes in some cases, the movie is not like the book. They give you the essence of some things that's going on, but it is not the book. So Stephen King, 11/22/63. 11/22/63 was the day our JFK, for our former president, was assassinated. And I think he only served like maybe 3 years. And so it say JFK slain in Dallas. LBJ takes oath. There's been a lot of conspiracies around that as well. We don't know, as America, if he was not assassinated, how that would have changed the trajectory of our life. We don't know, right? We don't know also about Lincoln, him signing the executive order to end slavery, right? We don't know because, evil is always waiting in the wings to take its place. And I should have put Lord of the Rings, because that's it's fantasy, but a lot of the themes. Let me get back to this. So if you have not known about this book, I thought it was Pulitzer worthy, and honestly, I never say that about King's work, but I thought this was a good piece of work. Like Stephen King, he's really good. He's a great storyteller. But there are some books that stay with you. And this one right here, it stayed with me. Okay, so let's go into it. Just a little bit, you guys, just a little bit. And it's brilliantly conceived Tour de France. They ain't lying about this because it is long, you guys. Look at this chunky monkey. But, I mean, Stephen King is always 400 pages plus, if not high 300s, his novellas are kind of huge too, but anyway. And yeah, so in his brilliantly conceived Tour de France, Stephen King, who has absorbed the social, political, and popular culture in his generation. Okay, let's get off of that right there. It begins with Jake Epping, a 35-year-old English teacher in Lesbian Falls, Maine. Who makes extra money teaching GED classes. He asks his students to write about an event that changed their lives. One of the essays blew him away, a gruesome, horrid story about the night more than 50 years ago, when Harry Dunning's father came home and killed his mother, his sister, and his brother with a sledgehammer. Reading the essay was a whitewash moment for Jake. His life, like Harry's, like America's in 1963, turning on a dime. Not much later, his friend Al, who owns the local diner, divulges a secret. His storeroom is a portal to the past. A particular day in 1958, and Al enlisted Jake to take over the mission that became his obsession: to prevent the assassination to present the Kennedy assassination. So I'm going to stop there, but I do want to say, the book is more or less time travel, and it also explore things like, when we try to go back and repair stuff that has already happened, sometimes we do more damage than harm. And so his character, he goes and he go back in time to move some things around, to change some events, to inject himself in certain situations where, he wants to prevent situations before they happen. And every time he went back, he made the future events worse. And that's how I'm going to leave that. That's why I felt like this one right here kind of missed the ball. Like, this was really good. And I think 11/22/63 is up there with probably my top 5 books that I love about Stephen King. Now, I will say this. I have not really been into my Stephen King like I want to. So I may, like delve into some of his books again and give it a fair rating. But this is definitely up there. Great read. Great read. Great spooky read, you guys. All right. So I have 4 more books and they're all nonfiction. So just stay with me, y'all. This is kind of a long video, but I promise you I won't let it go over an hour. So thank you for staying. So this one right here is Morningside, the 1979 Greensboro Massacre. Massacres are horrible, you guys. And the struggle for the American city soul. Okay. On November 3rd, 1979, an activist, Nelson Johnson, assembled people for a march adjacent to Morningside hometown homes in Greensboro, North Carolina. Shooting ranged out. A caravan of Klansmen and neo-Nazis sped from the scene, leaving behind 5 dead, known as the Greensboro Massacre. The event and its aftermath encapsulated the racial conflict, economic anxiety, clash of ideologies, and a toxic mix of corruption and conspiracy that toiled American democracy then and threatened it today. And I was just really talking about like the previous murders of, young Black men being found hung by trees and, homeless people being murdered. And this right here just lets you know that sometimes we are so busy. I have a net flying around here. Sometimes we are so busy with our head down, just doing the hard work and kind of like, okay, it's horrible. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to mention it. But I think sometimes when we are not talking about it, we're making these horrors exist and not being addressed, like gun violence, right? Gun violence is horrible. It affects us all, even us who have not been personally afflicted. It affects us all, right? It terrorizes the soul. For me, it does. And so this book right here, these are like some of the things in our Black history that not only I feel like as American citizens in cultural awareness that we should know about and learn from, but these are the conversations that we probably should be having about the past in order to prevent bad things happening in the future. And as I said, prevent from the future, not going back in the past like this character in Stephen King book did, but having these conversations for awareness, right? And cultural sensitivity. Stephen King, or not Stephen King, I'm sorry, Aaron Shetterly. Okay, so I'm looking at my time, you guys. So the next one, Built from the Fire, an epic story of Tulsa's Greenwood. Everything has to have Greenwood District, America's Black Wall Street. 100 years in the neighborhood that refused to be erased. The anniversary passed the Greenwood District in Tulsa. The Tulsa riots. I think it was, I want to say 2021 was the year. So 2021. It passed. So, and there were a lot of events, but I think they came up on another special anniversary. I'm not going to talk about it in this book, but the book right here. Let's get back to the book. This is one of my books that I want to finish in my 2025 goal as well. Let me read you a little bit of it. The multi-generational, I'm going to read the short end of it because I do have two other books, okay? And because, excuse me, I'm going to be talking about this book again in my yearly wrap up. So let me just give you a blurb. A multi-generational saga of a family and a community in Tulsa's Greenwood district, known as the Black Wall Street, that is in one that is one century, survived in 1921. Yeah, that's what I thought. So yeah, it was 2021. Tulsa race riot, urban renewal, and gentrification. And what a lot of people don't know is that after this riot, Black Tulsans, they did go back and rebuild slowly, not as big. And guess what? The mob took it down again. So this is what I talk about, you know, um, the violence within. You have people who really they tear down communities by gentrification, and I am not a big fan of gentrifying the neighborhood because it doesn't make it better. It really it uproot people who have roots in that neighborhood, and it is happening all over the United States. It has really um, made the housing market unstable because you have developers coming in and going in communities where people who are trying to maintain homes just selling their homes out of out of desperate times. So they come and they develop these properties, and they remodel it, and then they put it back on the market for these astronomical price, which brings up the taxes of everybody in the community. And these are some of the things that we are not having this conversation enough in the communities. But yeah, read it, read it. It is on my list of books to read this year, and I think I will get to this in November. Right now I'm doing a challenge where I'm pulling two books. I did episode 1. Episode 2 will be coming up. I think it'll be every other week. I think it's in total, because I said I would do it every 2 weeks to give you guys a wrap up. So stay tuned for that. But episode 1 is up right now if you're interested. I may put it in the cards. Another one, No Immediate Danger, volume 1 of the Carbon Ideologies. This is William T. Vollman. William T. He writes both fiction and nonfiction. I don't know how he juggled between the two. Like, you have some people who write books for adults and then children. I get that, right? Because you just simplifying the language. But I mean, this is like across the board. So I am such a big fan of William T. Vollman. This is the Ideology series. So I will say this is the volume 1 and volume 2. I don't have volume 2 yet, but so this is a 2-part book, but it's a 4-part series. So yeah, I have only this book, and the other 3 I do want to add to my collection, but I'm not going to add it to my collection until I read this one. I can always check these items out at my local library, so it's not a must have, but I have books that I want to put in my library, and these are books that I see myself reading over time. So let's get to this. No Immediate Danger. It talks about the environment, you guys, and how the U.S. has basically done a poor job in protecting its citizens. Okay. So let me give you a little bit of blurb of this. In his nonfiction, William T. Vollman has won acclaim, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So he talks about, and this is part of the series, has won acclaim as a singular voice, tackling everything from poverty to violence to American imperialism. And it has played out on the United States-Mexican border. Now he turns to a topic that would define generations to come, the human actions that have led to global warming. I don't care if you don't believe in global warming. It's happening, okay? Involvements begins no immediate danger, the first volume of Carbonologies, by laying out the many causes of climate change. I love reading about climate change in the environment. Um, from seemingly beneficial agricultural practices to the manufacture of steel and plastic we all depend on. The justifiable yearning of people all over the world to live in a comfortable in the quest for and comfort in the quest for um, continued economic growth obscure fundamental questions. Questions like, what is the thematic work for? How wasteful are we performing? Are we performing it? Vaughn offers a quantitative tool. Vaughn offers the quantitative tools to compare fuels, emissions, human activities, and the harm they do. This, I don't know why I didn't get this right here. I didn't know why I haven't gotten to this. Because like this type of stuff is my jam, but it's not only a recommendation. I put this down as a horror, and that not even spooky, but it is horrifying how wasteful, and I'm guilty of this. Like I'm trying to make sure that my footprint on the earth is not as damaging, by recycling and composting and repurposing. And so looking for opportunities to make sure that my footprint is not as damaging, right? At the same time, being mindful of consumerism. We're buying stuff that long term may not benefit us in the end. And it's all for capitalism. We are all at one point or another guilty of it. Sometimes it slips us, when we are engaging in things that gives us joy, but we always have to be mindful of the end game. I want to leave the planet livable enough for future generations. So yeah, carbonali, no immediate danger. This is part of my 25 for 2025. So more likely you will probably hear this in my wrap up. I think it is. I'm gonna have to watch this video. I have a list of them, but I will definitely be reading that soon. So last but not least, now this may trigger some of you all, but I gotta recommend it. It doesn't matter what your political ideologies are. If you're living in the United States, we can all agree that everyone should have freedom of speech, freedom of, to live in safe communities, freedom to afford the life that they're living. And so with the temperature and the political climate, you guys, like people are acting a fool, plumb fool. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. I am for, people having their votes counted. I am for free speech. People have said offensive things to me in my lifetime. Do I want to take away that person's right? No, I don't. I don't want nobody to take away my rights when I say things. So we have to be mindful of how we are trying to regulate freedom of expression. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But what I want to say about this last book I want to recommend is I Alone Can Fix It, Donald J. Trump's Catastrophic Final Year. Y'all, I listened to this book on audio, and I haven't read the physical copy yet, but I'm going to have to. This is horror. This author, this is co-authored by two people, Carol Loaning and Philip Ruckers. She is the author of A Very Stable Genius. I also have that one. But this one, oh my goodness. This was actually a recent audio for me. And I, out of nowhere, I was like, let me just listen to this. And the things that this administration did during the worst human outbreaks of a virus is appalling. I don't care if you are anti-vax. I don't care if you are anti-COVID. I don't care if you think it was a hoax. Okay. I just felt like we need responsible leadership. We need responsible people to represent us, the well-being, of the country. And unfortunately, you guys, we're not getting that. I alone can fix it. So I don't know where this book, Spooky Read, will land with you. I may have said some things that offend some people, but some people, I want to offend someone enough to say, I disagree with you. We're going to say, I'm going to say to you, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let me know how you feel about these recs that I gave you. No, this is not the typical spooky read, but I guarantee you, out of all these recommendations, this book, this list was curated by me with the thought that I know that this conversation may offend some, may offend all. I don't care. But if you are interested in topics like these, I do nonfiction recs all the time. And I will post my 25 of 2025 list below so you can look at some of my recs and my book hauls if you're interested in the type of books that I am interested in reading. So, with that in mind, thank you for staying as long as you have. And hey, click like, subscribe, share this with a friend if I had some interesting recs. And I hope I will see you in my next video. Bye-bye.